I've always said that the secret to wealth is not in the size of your paycheck, but in the size of your philosophy. Before money ever finds its way into your life, your mind has already built a home for it, or pushed it away. Wealth doesn't start in your wallet. It begins in your thoughts, in the quiet corners of your attitude toward possibility and abundance. The difference between those who create wealth and those who only wish for it lies in how they think about money. The rich don't see money as an end. They see it as a tool, a servant, a vehicle for expansion. The poor, on the other hand, often see money as a lifeline, something to chase, to spend, or to fear losing. And that difference in perspective creates two completely different destinies. When I was a young man, I used to complain about my small paycheck. I'd say, if only I earned more, I'd save more. My mentor stopped me right there and said, "You have it backward. You save first, and then you earn more." That day I learned something profound. Money doesn't change who you are. It amplifies who you already are. If you're careless with a little, you'll be reckless with a lot. If you're grateful for a little, you'll multiply it naturally. You must first become the kind of person who can handle wealth before wealth ever arrives. It starts with awareness. The language you use around money shapes your reality. When you say, "I can't afford it," your mind shuts down. It looks for escape. But when you ask, "How can I afford it?" your mind opens up. It starts searching for answers. One statement creates limitation. The other sparks creativity. That's the power of a wealthy mindset. And then there's clarity, because the mind, like a ship, needs direction. Visualize the life you want, the freedom, the contribution, the peace of mind. Let that vision pull you forward every single day. And finally, remember this: your environment is the soil in which your thoughts grow. Spend too much time around people who complain, and you'll catch their disease of discouragement. But surround yourself with thinkers, dreamers, and doers, and your mind will begin to expand. Wealth flows to those who think in terms of value, service, and solutions, not scarcity, luck, or chance. Because money doesn't start with numbers, it starts with philosophy. Change your thinking, and everything else will follow. When I first started out, I was broke, confused, and convinced that hard work alone would make me rich. I worked long hours, took every opportunity I could find, but my results barely changed. Then I learned a truth that shifted my entire life. Wealth isn't built by effort alone. It's built by understanding. You can swing an axe all day, but if it's dull, you won't cut much wood. The key is not just motion, but mastery. You must study wealth before you pursue it. Most people chase money without ever studying how it works. They want the harvest without learning how to plant the seed. They think wealth is luck, timing, or talent. But the truth is, it's structure, discipline, and knowledge. The wealthy don't stumble upon riches by accident. They study the game until it becomes second nature. They read financial statements, understand markets, analyze business models, and most importantly, they learn the principles that govern growth and preservation. They treat wealth like a science, not a mystery. I remember my mentor asking me, "How many books have you read on money?" I told him, "None." He smiled and said, "Then that explains your bank account." That one sentence hit me like a thunderbolt. From that day forward, I became a student of success. I read biographies of great entrepreneurs, devoured books on investing, listened to tapes while driving, and filled notebooks with lessons. Slowly but surely, I began to understand the laws of money, how to attract it, manage it, and multiply it. You see, self-education is the great equalizer. You don't need to be born rich or gifted. You just need to be curious enough to learn. The difference between those who live paycheck to paycheck and those who create lasting wealth often comes down to one thing: what they study in their spare time. While one group is entertained, the other is educated. The rich are constantly learning, not just about money, but about people, systems, psychology, and service. So here's the challenge. Read at least one good book on wealth every month. Turn your car into a mobile classroom. Instead of music, listen to lessons that expand your financial intelligence. Study the patterns of those who made it, not to copy them, but to understand how they thought. Because when you study wealth deeply, you stop chasing money and start attracting it. Knowledge turns the uncertain into the inevitable. Wealth, after all, doesn't belong to the lucky, it belongs to the learned. When I look back on the early years of my journey, I can tell you one thing for certain. I didn't lose opportunities because I lacked intelligence or talent. I lost them because I lacked discipline. I had dreams, I had plans, I even had motivation. But motivation is like a spark. Discipline is the fire that keeps it alive. Discipline is what transforms good intentions into lasting wealth. You can have the best financial plan in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to follow it, it's just paper. See, most people think freedom means doing whatever they want. But real financial freedom doesn't come from doing what you want. It comes from doing what's necessary, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the bridge between your current bank balance and the wealth you imagine. It's what turns saving into investing and investing into independence. The undisciplined spend first and plan later. The disciplined plan first and spend what's left. And that small difference in order makes all the difference in outcome. I remember when I first started to change my habits. I began to treat my money differently. I paid myself first, no matter how small the amount. I automated savings so I didn't have to rely on willpower. I created daily routines that were non-negotiable: a little reading, a little reflection, and consistent tracking of my finances. Some days it felt tedious, even boring, but I learned something powerful. Boredom is the soil of discipline, and discipline is the seed of freedom. You see, the rich don't have superhuman willpower. They just have systems that protect their priorities. They don't leave their future to chance or emotion. They know that habits compound just like interest does. Every disciplined decision builds momentum, and every impulse resisted strengthens resolve. Over time, this quiet consistency turns into visible success. The truth is, money doesn't disappear by accident. It leaks away through undisciplined choices, the small indulgences, the untracked spending, the unnecessary upgrades. But once discipline takes over, every dollar starts working for you instead of against you. You stop chasing money because your structure begins attracting it. So, let discipline become your silent partner in wealth. Automate your savings. Commit to your routines. Track your progress with honesty. Reward your consistency, not your impulses. Because while motivation fades and emotion fluctuates, discipline remains loyal. It's the quiet force that builds fortunes. Remember, discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. Choose the lighter burden today, and you'll never have to carry the heavier one tomorrow. There was a time when I let my emotions make my financial decisions for me, and it cost me dearly. You see, emotions are powerful forces. They can either serve your vision or sabotage it. Money itself isn't emotional. It's neutral, obedient, predictable. It does exactly what you tell it to do. But when fear or greed take the driver's seat, money becomes a terrible master. Fear makes you freeze when opportunity knocks, and greed makes you chase when wisdom says wait. I learned that lesson early, when a bad decision made in excitement turned into a painful reminder that emotions and wealth never mix well. The wealthy understand something most people don't. Logic builds empires. Emotion burns them down. When markets drop, the fearful sell, the wise stay calm. When trends rise, the greedy rush in, the wise study patterns. The difference isn't intelligence, it's emotional control. Wealth doesn't belong to the smartest or even the most talented. It belongs to those who can stay steady when everyone else panics. That calm, composed mindset is what separates financial success from financial stress. Now, I'm not saying emotions are bad. Emotions are signals, but they shouldn't be steering wheels. The key is to pause before reacting. Never make big money decisions under pressure or excitement. Sleep on it, review it, and let the dust settle before you act. I started keeping a financial journal for that reason. I wrote down how I felt when I made purchases, when I invested, and when I missed opportunities. Over time, I saw patterns, times when impatience made me spend too much, or when fear made me miss out. Awareness became my greatest teacher. Patience, my friends, is the secret currency of the wealthy. Most people underestimate its value. They want quick profits, instant results, and overnight success. But wealth doesn't work that way. It rewards those who think long-term. The patient investor compounds wisdom, while others chase excitement. The calm entrepreneur builds legacy, while others burn energy on comparison. When you manage your emotions, money becomes your loyal servant. When you let emotions rule, money becomes your cruel master. So, develop the discipline of emotional distance. Before you buy, pause. Before you sell, think. Before you react, breathe. Because impulsiveness is expensive, but wisdom compounds beautifully. Stay calm, stay logical, and let patience become the language through which wealth speaks to you. When I was young, I spent my early paychecks the way most people do, on things that disappeared as fast as I bought them. A new suit, a fancy dinner, the latest gadget. It felt good in the moment, but one day I looked around and realized something. I had nothing to show for years of work except receipts and memories that didn't multiply. That's when it hit me. I was living like a consumer, not a producer. And if you stay a consumer all your life, you'll always be working for someone else's dream. You see, the rich think differently about money. They don't ask, what can I buy with this? They ask, what can this buy me that will earn again and again? Every dollar to them is a worker. It either builds a system or it buys back time. The poor, on the other hand, spend their dollars feeding distractions. They buy entertainment, comfort, and things that rust and rot. The difference isn't in the paycheck, it's in the philosophy. Every purchase you make is a vote for your future or against it. I started changing my habits. Instead of buying things that faded, I began buying things that produced. I bought books that sharpened my thinking. I invested in small ventures, learned about business, and studied how to make money work for me. One of my early mentors told me, don't just buy products, buy productivity. It became a rule. Every month, I asked myself, what can I create? What can I build? What can I add? That shift alone transformed my financial life. If you spend your days consuming, you'll end up exhausted and empty. But if you learn to produce ideas, services, solutions, the world begins to reward you. Start small. Maybe it's a side project, a blog, a service, or an online store. Learn how money flows when you create something of value. The rich have multiple streams of income because they've mastered production. They plant seeds everywhere. Some grow fast, others slow, but all produce eventually. So, ask yourself tonight, is your money building or vanishing? Is it buying toys or tools? Because wealth doesn't come from working harder. It comes from thinking smarter. Every dollar you invest in creation over consumption brings you closer to freedom. Become the person who builds, not just buys. Remember, consumers stay busy, but producers build legacies. I learned long ago that the world has a rhythm of giving and receiving. Most people try to skip to the receiving part without understanding that the flow of wealth doesn't start with taking. It starts with giving. You can't outsmart this principle. Whether it's time, money, or energy, what you give sets the measure for what you get. Giving isn't loss, it's planting. And every harvest begins with a seed sown in faith, not fear. When I was broke, I remember thinking, how can I give when I barely have enough? But the truth is, giving isn't about the amount, it's about the attitude. It's about proving to yourself that money doesn't own you. I started with small acts. I gave part of my income to causes I believed in, not because I had abundance, but because I wanted to live in that mindset. I tithed. I helped someone get started in business. And something fascinating happened. The more I gave, the more opportunities found their way back to me. Not magically, but naturally. Giving trained my mind to think in terms of abundance, not scarcity. It opened my eyes to value creation. And that's what wealth is all about. There's a law in life: what you circulate returns. When you hoard, you shrink. When you share, you expand. It's like air. Try to hold your breath and you'll suffocate. Breathe out and you make room for more to come in. The same goes for wealth. I've seen people clutch their money so tightly that they strangle their own growth. The wealthy understand this. They give strategically. They mentor others, fund projects, support communities, and invest in people. They know that every act of contribution multiplies in ways they may never predict. Teaching, too, is a form of giving. Every time you mentor someone, you reinforce your own mastery. I remember coaching a young entrepreneur who reminded me of myself years ago. As I helped him avoid mistakes, I found myself learning all over again. Giving like that doesn't deplete you, it sharpens you. So, don't wait to give until you have more. You have more when you give. Start with what you have, a few dollars, sometime your knowledge. Gratitude and generosity attract abundance, the way light draws life. Wealth doesn't chase the selfish, it follows the generous. Give before you get, and you'll discover that true prosperity begins not in your wallet, but in your heart. You know, it's easy to get caught in the glitter of success, the cars, the houses, the applause. But after the shine fades and the crowd goes home, you're left with a question far more profound. Did any of it matter? The truth is, luxury is temporary, but legacy is eternal. The ultimate purpose of wealth isn't to impress, it's to impact. The real rich don't measure success by what they wear or where they live. They measure it by what remains when they're gone. I've seen people chase luxuries their whole lives and end up empty. They got the mansion but lost their marriage. They bought the watch but wasted the time. You see, the price of luxury is often unseen. It costs peace, purpose, and connection. But legacy, on the other hand, compounds. It's the kind of wealth that appreciates in value long after you're gone. When I started to understand this, my focus shifted. I stopped asking, how much can I make? And started asking, how long will what I build last? That question changed everything. Legacy begins with systems. If your wealth depends entirely on your presence, then it's not freedom, it's a job with nicer scenery. You've got to create businesses, investments, and structures that can thrive without you. That's what the wealthy do differently. They think generationally. They build mechanisms that keep producing value long, after their names are forgotten. And beyond the money, they build people. Because if you leave behind a pile of cash without the wisdom to handle it, you've left a burden, not a blessing. I often tell people, don't just leave wealth to your children, leave them principles. Teach them the value of work, gratitude, and stewardship. Write down what you've learned. Document your failures as much as your successes. Let your story become a manual for those who follow. I did that in my early years. I kept journals of lessons, so that one day, those ideas could keep speaking even when I no longer could. That's legacy, wisdom that continues to guide when your voice is silent. The measure of a rich life isn't in your possessions, but in your influence. Who is better because you lived? Whose path is clearer because you shared your light? That's what endures. Build legacy, not luxury, because luxury ends when the lights go out, but legacy shines on for generations. One of the biggest mistakes people make is relying on a single source of income. One paycheck, one client, one stream that keeps them afloat. It's like standing on one leg and hoping to stay balanced forever. The wealthy think differently. They understand that one stream may feed you, but multiple streams free you. Freedom doesn't come from earning more. It comes from creating flow. When one river runs dry, the others keep life moving. I remember early in my career, I was working hard, doing well, but I realized that all my effort came from one channel, my primary business. If something happened to it, I'd be right back where I started. That realization hit me like a brick. So, I started small, a second venture here, an investment there. I didn't wait until I had excess money. I started with extra focus. I asked myself, what can I build that doesn't require my constant presence? That's when I began to understand the real meaning of leverage. You see, the wealthy don't chase luck. They engineer opportunity. The first stream of income is for survival, but the second is for security, and the third is for significance. They use their first success as the seed for the next one. They don't spend all their profits on comfort. They reinvest them into assets that work while they rest. A portion goes into business, another into investments that compound quietly, real estate, stocks, intellectual property, or systems that earn even when they're asleep. But diversification isn't just about money, it's also about skill. You've got to build active and passive streams of capability. Learn to sell, to lead, to communicate. Skills are income channels no one can take away. Every skill you acquire opens another door of opportunity. The world pays generously to those who can solve problems, so the more you can solve, the more streams will flow toward you. And remember, excuses dry up faster than income. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't know how. Those are the mantras of mediocrity. The rich replace excuses with experiments. They try, fail, learn, and adjust. Wealth doesn't require perfection. It requires momentum. The moment you build your second stream, you've taken your first step toward freedom. Don't build excuses, build engines. Let your money work harder than you do. That's how wealth begins to serve you instead of the other way around.